and this is my stream. Hold on one second, actually. Let me... Okay, I'm back. So I am Delia Codes, and this is my first node project. This is me going through a coding bootcamp and coding out my first node project in a TDD kind of style, or at least trying to get into a TDD style. And yeah, that's about it. So this is me learning how to code. So right now, last time, we created our first validation test, roughly. Our first rough validation test for the validation code. We separated out our code into a few different things. We structured it in such a way as to make it kind of work. Our validation tests are failing right now, which is like, okay, I understand. And I think that's where we were at. So let's see here. I'm going to push really quick the code up into the validation because I don't think I've committed the validation tests yet. So that will be my last passing test code until until we get these validations created. Also, I guess when talking about validation code, that sort of thing, I wrote a bunch of code without writing tests first. This is a problem. So what we're doing right now is we're writing tests, and then we're going to rewrite / make the code pass the tests. And kind of ignore what I wrote, but also like not necessarily completely ignore, sort of thing. Okay, code is pushed, and let me share my screen. Okay, welcome. All right, so last time we said errors out. Errors out if an input is not a string, and there's some sort of error block. Okay, great. Let's save. And then it sends a response if input is less than 2 characters. So we're going to say const, and then we're going to put input equals A. Okay, great. And then we're going to say const result equals, and then we're going to say validation input, and we're going to have to change this validation thing here eventually. And then we're going to say expect, and then we're going to say result, and then we're going to say to contain, and then we're going to say please. Okay, we're going to say please send please write more than 2 characters. For the name. Okay. We're going to do that, and we're going to save. No errors. Okay, great. And then what's next? And we may end up chaining these together. Like, we may say to contain, expect, you know, that sort of thing. Like, I don't necessarily, like, these its may not necessarily need to be separate, is what I'm thinking. Okay, so let's see here. Let's start tracking this. First 2 test drafts for validation code. And so we checked to see if input is not a string. We checked to see if input is less than 2 characters. Okay, so I guess our input should be, our ingredient should be a meal. So it adds ingredient, sends ingredient. So ingredients should be in the form of an array. Let's do that, and do that, and do this, and do that, and do that. Okay. So ingredient should be in the form of an array. Okay, awesome. I'm looking forward to what this looks like. Let's check this. Cannot read property of first, undefined. That's interesting. Where is this? Okay. So I'm sure that all of our tests are failing. One failed, one total. Let's take a look. Validation is not a function. Great. Yeah. So right now it's like, oh, your thing isn't a function. So yeah, that's what it's complaining about right now. Which is perfectly normal. I mean, honestly. Well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, ingredient should be in the form of an array. Okay, so let's create an ingredient, const. Ingredient equals cheese. Great. Okay. Const result equals validation, and then we're going to say ingredient. And then we're going to say expect result to be I'm not sure if that's exactly how to write that, but it could be to be an array, maybe. Let's look at to be and see if we can find that. To be, fascinating. To be just. Okay. Okay. That wasn't very helpful. Let's go to the expect API docs. Expect, let's go to be. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Expect object containing. Ooh, this is aha. Expect array containing. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. That could be pretty cool. I don't necessarily think. I think to contain should be perfectly fine. Though to contain expects that it contains the value. It doesn't necessarily contain. Expect to object containing. Okay, so let's say. I mean, I think to be is perfectly fine. And to equal might also be worthwhile. Okay, so I think we're looking at a 2B. I mean, I think 2B is fine. I mean, I think to contain, is, and I think that this should be, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily what it should contain. I think that that's like a good start. Okay, so we've got these three things. What else do we need? I mean, we could do length here. We could do, all of these. I think that there's a lot of different resources as to how we could do this. So let's go and split our code and kind of go and see what we can find out. So let's do this here, and let's say first draft. Okay, drafted set of of 3 tests for validation code. And now these tests are pretty simple. I feel like that they could be a lot more complex. I'm wondering if they ought to be more complex, but I'm also just kind of like, well, they are what they are. So maybe I need to rewrite them. Who knows? Okay. So let's put our console away, and then let's say Okay, so let's not. So let's say module.exports equals, and we're gonna say string check. We're gonna say convert input data into DB format, and then we're going to export validate user input. We're going to do title and ingredient. We didn't test for that one. And then we should probably do, I don't know if we need to do validate user input. Because this thing is, we're going to have to rewrite anyway, because it's like promises and that's like kind of ridiculous. And that's the other thing too. This code is like very promise filled, and it shouldn't necessarily be promise filled. So I think we should only just do string check for now. Because out of all of these, I think string check is probably the only one that I could like in good conscience like test. So let's say string check. And is assigned a value never used. Okay, so let's do string check input, and then let's skip these two. And let's see what our thing came up with. Okay. String check is not a function. Sure looks like a function. Okay, interesting. Let's console log string check. Okay. Because it's probably something silly. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, so it's an object. Right. Because it's doing an object. That's fascinating. I did not know that that actually existed that way. Okay, so let's say string check. Okay, so let's, since we're only doing one thing, let's do this. Actually, we should probably just destructure it. So that means that we should do this and do this. And let's say missing that. Okay, string is not defined. Great. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Okay, so take a look. Might be a string equals string. Okay, so let's figure out, okay. Sounds like I need to look at what the type of documents is. I need to look at how to write, actually, for what the hell to write. Okay. So, let's say. All right. Type of JavaScript. Let's take a look. Let's figure out how the hell to do this. Type of blah. Oh, so it looks like I need double quotes. No, I need single quotes, it looks like. Okay, either that or I need to like kind of, so let's put single quotes around here and around here, and let's see if that works. Expected collection to be okay. Great. Console error 56 is not a string. Okay, so let's say okay, we need to figure out how we're going to return. So it looks like our code works, but our test doesn't match what our code is. So in other words, if expected result to contain is not a string. Let's say is not a string. So let's save that. Let's run it. Okay. So right now it's returning undefined. Okay, so what are you saying? Unnecessary else have to return unexpected console statement. Okay, great. So I don't necessarily think that we need like a console statement here. Why don't we just say return is not a string? Input is not a string, and then just go with that. Okay. Okay. Voila. So one of the things we don't do here, and we don't currently test what happens when it is a string. So let's do it. It returns. So this is returns a message if an input is not a string. And then we're going to say here it needs to returns string if input is a string. And then let's create a thing. And let's create a thing. Great. Okay. So from here, let's do const input equal to say cheese, and those are about input. Those about... Okay, great. And then const result is equal to string check input and then expect result dash to contain cheese. Okay, great. So let's see. Passes. Great. All right. So let's see here. Sends a response. The only other thing I can think of is if... So we don't have... So our testing calls for sends a response if input is less than 2 characters. So I could do... so let's send this with string check. Okay, and then let's not skip it. And let's see what happens. Failed. Okay, and what did it say? What did it send? Expected string. Okay. It currently doesn't check that. Okay. So let's see here. Let's do it this way. Let's... So I think string check is perfectly fine. I think it needs to be a string or it needs to be a string or it needs to be Okay, so we've got 2 ways of doing this, I guess. Is that currently it's pretty simple. This is like string check. So we could write a length check. Or we could just add the functionality in string check. So I think length check is... I think that length check is easy enough to do. We just have to modify one of our tests to make it happen. Input is not, well, it should say or is only one character. Is only one character. Okay, so let's comment this out. Okay, so it's only, okay, great. So this still passes. And we don't actually need this console log, so let's console log that out. Okay, so let's see, return might be a string. Okay, great. And then let's do an and and all and might be a string dot length is greater than 1. Okay, and then let's make sure that we've got this. And we're gonna say more than one character for the name. Oh, right. One character for the name. Great, it passes. Perfect. Okay, so ingredient should be in the form of an array. We don't need this length check here. And this is where things get like a little hairy. Okay, so let's delete this console. I'm so glad that we've managed to get things tested, at least to a certain extent. Okay, so this is where I'm like, okay, so all right, let's commit our code right now. String type and length validations. Validation works. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so next up, we've got ingredient should be in the form of an array. We also should do something like has title and ingredient. So let's write a test for has title and ingredient first. And should contain a title. Actually, I think that this should be a unit. Okay, so 3 things. One is ingredient should be in the form of an array. Great. I think that's more of a unit test, I guess. And the has title and ingredient is more of a it's more of an integration test, because it's like you're checking if the input has both of those things, and like it's more of like a request body aspect than not. So let me look. Successfully validates meal input. So I mean, validate is that way. Okay, so I think we should focus on this and not focus on this, because this may be a different thing. I mean, it's easy enough to do it, I guess. Okay, what the hell. Let's do it. Okay, so let's say it is certain. Actually, let me see. It it returns an error if object does not contain meal, name, and ingredient. And then let's do this, and then let's do that, and then let's do this, and then here. Okay, great. So let's say const, we're gonna put input equals an object with name, and we're gonna use single quotes, cheeseburger, because we are very American, and then ingredients, and as an array, and to include cheese. Great. Okay, awesome. And then we're gonna say has title and ingredient. Oh, actually we're gonna say const result equals okay. So let's, and it's actually name. User content.name, and so let's change the name. Let's change this here. Though I don't know if we're gonna use this because promisey. Okay, and fix this no else return. Okay, great. And we're gonna say has name and ingredient, and then we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna come up here and say, and then we're gonna do that, and voila. Okay, equals has name and ingredient, and we're gonna say input. Great. Okay, so expect result dot to, I think dot to contain should be fine. Actually no, dot to to match object, and then we're going to say input. And so what we're doing is we're not checking the error handling, we're checking the returns object if it returns object if it contains meal name and ingredient. Okay, great. Okay. See if it works. Who knows? Great, that works. Okay, so let's write it, and then we're gonna say returns error message if object, if it is missing a name. Okay, so let's see here. And then we're gonna say const. Actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna, I feel like we should like copy and paste code, but I feel bad about doing that too. And I also feel bad about repeating it. Like, I feel like I should like not repeat or something. I don't know. But again, it's not like it's that, I don't know. A result is equal to House name ingredient input. Expect results to contain, which is not in here. Meal name is required. Okay, great. And this is gonna fail because right now we just returned that. Okay, so then let's say, okay, so this is all the if. We're gonna say if, we're gonna steal this code. Actually, no, it's meal.ingredients. And then we're gonna say return. Meal name is required. Great, our thing passes. So let's write a third test. Turns error message if it is missing ingredients. And then we're going to go here, and we're going to go here, here, and here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to say, okay, so let's copy this and this, and we're going to say, and we're going to say expect result dot to contain and then we're going to say meal ingredients are required, and then we're going to do that. We're going to copy this so that currently it fails, which is expected, and we're going to do another if. Actually, I think it might be else if. Let's save it real quick and see if it still does what we expect it to do. It currently fails. Okay, great. It seems like it passes. Okay, so we're gonna say else if. And why does that not know that? But whatever. And we're gonna blah. And we're gonna say return. And we're gonna put that there. And then we're gonna say if user content it does not equal undefined. Great, our test pass. Has name and ingredient. And why do you not like this? I might need to restructure that later. But at least we've got it, like, sort of, kind of working. Okay. So, has name and ingredient. Okay, great. So I'm so glad that we could like do that. Okay. I should probably. Okay, so I'm thinking that. Okay, let me actually go over here real quick. So we still have this test to figure out. We still have this one to like kind of vaguely test. We still have this monstrosity to like rewrite and test. And honestly, we need to figure out if we need any more validation. So I think we've got a lot to do still, but I mean, I kind of think we're going well. All our tests are passing, and so far it's pretty simple. I also have some reading to do, which I won't do in front of you. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Okay, so thank you so much for watching my stream, recorded or otherwise. And yeah, I'll probably be streaming later on this evening. All right, have a great day.